This is an impromptu video. I just get a chuckle out of that. All right, so this one's on economies of science fiction, specifically space opera. So I guess economy in space opera. One of the pet peeves, I guess you'd call it, I have with space opera is that they do not understand. The writers generally don't understand economics. Too many of them don't understand economics. One of the things you learn when studying economics is that for trade to make sense, it has to be cheaper to ship something in than to manufacture it yourself. So instead of just building a factory and building it in your own planet, if we're talking about space opera, it's interstellar. So building it in your own solar system, star system, whatever you want to call it, it is going to be cheaper to ship it from a different star system. It has to be cheaper. Now, when you start doing the math on this sort of economy, the cost of shipping something has to be dirt cheap. Flying from planet to planet has to be cheaper than dirt. It actually has to be. It almost has to be free to work. It's that thin line, because you're traveling such vast distances to go from one star system to another. It has to be free, or practically free. Otherwise, from an economic standpoint, it's the cost per mile has to be, not even mile, the cost per light year has to be minuscule because of the distances involved. So whenever you've got a movie where fuel is a big concern, and I don't mean, they're running out of fuel. I mean, the cost of fuel is a big concern. It's, you should always be seeing something where people are like, well, it's just cheaper for us to build it ourselves. The Star Wars universe, the Firefly universe, the Star Trek universe, all of these worlds, fandoms, whatever you want to call them, universes, unify. It has to be cheaper to ship it than to manufacture it yourself. And I'll give you a real life example. Right now, in what year is this? 2018. In the United States, we gather the materials here in the United States, whether we grow them or mine them, or there's a bug on me. Why is there a bug in my car? Whether we grow them or mine them or whatever we do, we gather the resources here, we ship them to China. China takes the raw materials, puts them together, and manufactures the product and ships it back to us. It is cheaper right now in the United States to ship to China to have them manufacture it than to manufacture it ourselves. And the cost of the raw materials isn't changing. It's actually the labor and shipping is so cheap that it's more practical to do it that way. And the same has to be true for an intergalactic economy has to function the same way. Otherwise, everything's going to be manufactured in the individual star systems. Your manufacturing costs have to be incredibly low to manufacture enough for whatever your range is, a quarter of the galaxy, whatever, a tenth of the galaxy. Even if it's 100 planets within range of you, it has to be cheaper for you to manufacture it and ship it to them. It has to be cheaper to do that than for them to manufacture it themselves. And so whenever they're talking about the price of fuel and fuel going out the window, you should be hearing people talking about, why don't we just build it ourselves? Why don't we just manufacture the stuff ourselves? Yeah, that's pretty much my entire rant. I know I didn't yell and scream or anything, but it just bugs me. It pulls me right out. Whenever you're watching something fantastic, whether it's a superhero movie or sci-fi or fantasy or specifically space opera, the world has to have what is called, the story has to have what is called verisimilitude. It means truth within that universe, truth within that story, the confines of the story. We talk about the suspension of disbelief in storytelling, where you are willing to believe that a man can fly and be super strong and invulnerable if you're watching Superman and have lasers coming out of his eyes and whatnot. You're willing to believe that elves and dwarves and hobbits exist, and magic, if you watch Lord of the Rings. And you believe that that interstellar travel is possible if you watch Star Wars and Star Trek and other space opera. We know these things aren't true. In the case of science fiction, we know they're true not yet. They may never be true. And that's fine. We accept that fiction. That's where we are suspending our disbelief. So when we do that, we still need the world to make sense within the confines of the given differences between our world and the world of the story, the fairy world, the fairy tale world. So something like, and you're like, why does the economy have to make sense within a space opera? It's space opera, man. How do you know the economy would work that way? Because we're not suspending our disbelief on economy. We're not suddenly believing that you can make something from nothing. In these worlds, we are expected to believe that the law of non-contradiction holds true, that the laws of science, to the best of our knowledge, still work the same way, mostly, that you can't make something from nothing. Things have a cost associated with them. And when you take away that verisimilitude, that you lose it. You lose the audience. The audience will say, hey, that doesn't even make sense. And classic example is, I'm watching Captain America, the First Avenger, with my dad. And before he's Captain America, Steve Rogers gets into a street fight. And this guy just punches him right in the head. Just bam, right in the head. And Steve just gets right back up. I mean, he shakes it a little bit. He has to shake off the punch, but he gets right back up. And Dad goes, that would never happen. You can't punch somebody in the head like that and then they're ready to go again. And that ruined the entire movie for Dad. And that's fine. Everybody likes different things. It didn't ruin it for me. Ruined it for Dad. But whenever I see that scene now, I'm thinking to myself, I've been punched in the head. You can't shake it off that fast. So anyway, verisimilitude. Economies of space opera. Go enjoy yourselves. This has been an impromptu video. I got things to do today. Bye.